welcome back to the deep dive. If you've been with us for the last couple of sessions, we're knee-deep in what I'm calling the manual for the human mind.
Right.
We are breaking down Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
It's honestly the book that launched 1,000 ships in the self-help world. Every guru you listen to today probably borrowed something from Dr. Maltz.
Absolutely. And just to orient everyone really quickly, this is part 3. So if you're just jumping in now, welcome. But you might want to hit pause after this and go back to parts 1 and 2.
Yeah, you really need that foundation.
Because we spent a lot of time defining the self-image, which is basically the internal blueprint that dictates, well, everything you do.
Right. And if the self-image is the blueprint, what we were talking about today is the construction crew.
Right.
Or, to use a car analogy, if the self-image is the chassis, today we are popping the hood and looking at the engine.
Which is imagination. And I have to be honest with you, when I saw imagination as the headline for this, I had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Well, I think a lot of us do. We hear imagination and we think of children playing make-believe or, daydreaming or just escaping reality.
It feels fluffy.
Yeah, it feels like the exact opposite of doing the work.
It feels like a distraction.
Exactly. But Maltz comes out swinging here. He argues that imagination isn't an escape from reality. It is the primary interface with reality. He says it's the trigger that makes the whole machine go.
And he doesn't just say it philosophically either. He backs it up with some pretty wild stories from his medical practice.
Let's start there, actually, because this story stuck with me. It's the story of the big nose.
Ah, the big nose patient. This
Yeah.
is classic Maltz. Remember, before he was a writer, he was a reconstructive plastic surgeon?
Right.
He spent his days fixing faces.
So the setup is this. A man comes into Maltz's office. He's completely distraught. He's depressed. He is absolutely convinced that his nose is enormous and his ears are just huge. He tells Maltz that he looks distorted, almost like a monster, and he feels like everyone is constantly staring at him.
The shame is very real for this guy. The anxiety is real.
But here's the twist. Dr. Maltz examines him. He looks at the nose. He looks at the ears. And medically speaking, aesthetically, the guy is completely normal.
His features were perfectly average. There was no deformity at all.
Nothing.
There was literally nothing to fix with the scalpel.
So normally you'd say, okay, this guy needs a therapist, not a surgeon.
Right.
But Maltz uses this case to prove a profound point about how our brain works. This man was living in a nightmare. He was acting shy, feeling inferior, performing poorly in social situations, but he wasn't reacting to his actual nose.
He was reacting to his imagined nose.
Exactly.
And this is really the hook for everything we're going to discuss today. That man proved that we don't operate based on the facts of the world.
Wow, yeah.
We operate based on the image of the world we hold in our minds. His automatic negative failure mechanism was running at full blast, creating real misery, all based on a picture that just didn't exist in physical reality.
It completely challenges the idea that we are rational, logical creatures.
Yeah.
We like to think I see a fact. I analyze the fact. I react to the fact.
But we don't.
No.
We see a fact, we interpret it through our self-image, we create an internal picture, and then we react to the picture.
And this leads us into the heavy science of the book. This is where the cybernetics in Psycho Cybernetics comes from.
Yes, this is the core lesson, the big idea.
Maltz introduces the concept of the servo mechanism. Now, I hear servo mechanism, and I immediately think of Terminators or industrial robots. It sounds so cold.
It sounds totally robotic, but it's actually just an engineering term for an automatic goal-seeking machine. The best analogy, and the one Maltz uses, is a guided missile.
Okay, let's break that down. How does a guided missile actually work? Because I think understanding this completely changes how we see our own brains.
So a guided missile or a torpedo has a target, let's say an enemy ship. Now, when the missile launches, does it know exactly how to get there in a straight line?
No, because the ship might move or the wind might blow.
Exactly. The missile has sensors. It has a sense organ, essentially. So it launches, and immediately it might drift a little to the left. Its sensors pick that up.
Okay.
That is negative feedback. It tells the mechanism you are off course.
So the mechanism corrects.
It corrects to the right, but maybe it corrects too much. Now it's too far right. The sensors pick up that error.
More negative feedback.
Right, more negative feedback, and it corrects back to the left. It is constantly zigzagging. It is literally failing its way to success.
It uses the errors to find the path.
Precisely. And once it hits the target, the feedback stops. Mission accomplished.
Okay, so that's a missile. How does that map onto me trying to give a presentation at work?
Maltz says the human brain and nervous system operate on the exact same principle. We are goal-seeking mechanisms. We are built to steer toward a target.
But wait, and I know this is the pushback everyone has, if I'm just a machine, where's the free will? It feels a little dehumanizing to say you're just a servo mechanism.
And that is the crucial distinction here. Maltz is very clear. You are not the machine. You are the operator of the machine.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm the pilot. The brain is the jet.
Exactly. Your physical brain, your nervous system, your muscles, that is the hardware. That is the servo mechanism. But a mechanism is useless without a target.
Right.
A guided missile needs coordinates. A thermostat needs a temperature setting. The machine cannot set its own target.
And that's where the operator comes in.
That's where you come in. You provide the target. And bringing it back to the theme of the deep dive, the way you transmit that target to the machine is through imagination.
This is the connection I needed. So my imagination isn't just a movie playing in my head. It's the coding interface for the missile.
Yes. When you vividly imagine something, you are punching coordinates into the guidance system.
So if I imagine myself failing, if I sit there worrying, visualizing myself stuttering during the speech, seeing the audience looking bored.
You have just given the machine a clear target.
Yeah.
Failure. And your servo mechanism says, understood. Target acquired. Look awkward and stutter. And it will automatically adjust your heart rate, your sweat glands, and your lung capacity to ensure you hit that target.
That is terrifying. Because we do that all the time. We call it worrying, but you're saying it's actually rehearsing.
Worrying is using your creative imagination to set a negative target.
But here's the biological question, and the book goes deep on this. Does the machine know it's a fake target? If I'm just sitting on my couch imagining the speech, does my nervous system know I'm not actually on stage?
That is the secret. That is the biological loophole we are trying to exploit here. Maltz is explicit about this. The human nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and a vividly imagined experience.
It really can't tell.
Not if the imagination is vivid enough. If the image is strong enough, the nervous system reacts as if it is happening right now.
This reminds me of the section on hypnotism. I've always been a bit of a skeptic when it comes to stage hypnosis. Look into my eyes, you're a chicken, it feels like a parlor trick.
It feels like a trick, but Maltz uses it to prove the point about the nervous system. Think about what happens in hypnosis. If a hypnotist tells a subject you are at the North Pole and the subject believes it, what happens?
They start shivering.
They shiver. They might even get goosebumps. Their body is reacting to an environment that does not exist.
Because the operator, the mind, told the machine it's cold.
Exactly. Or if the hypnotist says there is a hot iron touching your skin, the subject can actually develop a blister.
That's crazy.
It is, but it's a physiological response to an image. The machine adjusts to the reality it was given. It doesn't question the source.
So in a way, we are walking around hypnotizing ourselves every day.
We are. We act and feel not according to what things are really like, but according to the image our mind holds of what they are like. If you have an image of yourself as awkward or unlucky or inferior, you are essentially living in a post-hypnotic suggestion that you gave yourself.
It's the big nose guy again. He hypnotized himself into thinking he was deformed.
Exactly. But,
Yeah.
and here's the good news, if the machine works one way, it works the other way too. This gives us a lever.
A lever to change the personality.
Yes. If we can change the image, the target, the machine must follow. It has no choice. It's a machine.
Okay, let's move from theory to evidence. Because I know there are listeners thinking that sounds nice, but real life is harder than just imagining things. Maltz provides some fascinating case studies that go way beyond just plastic surgery.
He does. There are two that really stood out to me. One involving alcoholics and one involving mental patients.
Let's start with the alcoholics.
Yeah.
Because addiction is physiological. It's chemical.
Yeah.
How does imagination fix chemistry?
Well, obviously there's a physical component to detox, but the study Maltz cites showed that for long-term recovery to stop the relapse, physical abstinence just wasn't enough.
Okay.
The addicts who succeeded were the ones who could change their self-image.
They had to stop seeing themselves as alcoholics trying not to drink.
Right. As long as the target was, I am a drinker, fighting the urge, the machine was still oriented around the drink. To recover, they had to vividly picture themselves as sober, responsible people enjoying life without liquor.
Wow.
They had to visualize themselves at a barbecue or a dinner, feeling happy and comfortable with a glass of water in their hand.
They had to build a memory of a future where they were already free.
Exactly. They had to make the sober self real to their nervous system before it became real in their life.
That makes total sense. It's
Yeah.
hard to become something you can't even conceive of being.
Yeah.
But the one that really blew my mind, and I think this is the most actionable one for everyone listening, was the study with the mental patients. This was a survey test, right?
Yes, this is incredible. So researchers took a group of patients who were institutionalized. These were people struggling with various neuroses. They gave them a standard personality test, a baseline survey.
Okay, so they get their disturbed scores.
Right. Then they asked them to take the test again. But this time they gave a very specific instruction. They didn't say try to get a better score. They said answer these questions as if you were a normal, well-adjusted, happy person.
So role play. Pretend you were sane.
Essentially. And the results were staggering. 75% of them drastically improved their scores.
75%.
Yes. Many of them scored perfectly within the normal range.
Just by pretending.
See, we get hung up on the word pretending. We think it means fake. But look at the mechanics. In order to answer as a well-adjusted person, they had to imagine how that person would feel.
Right.
They had to imagine how that person would view the world. They had to step into that image.
And for the duration of the test, their nervous system aligned with that image.
Yes. They gave the servo mechanism a new target. Be well-adjusted. And the machine said, copy that, and adjusted the output. It proves that we have the data for success inside us. We just aren't accessing it because we're locked into the wrong self-image.
That is so powerful. It really drives home that we have more control than we think. We aren't broken. We're just running the wrong software.
You are not broken. That is the key message here. You have a flawless machine that is simply executing a flawed program.
But in these deep dives, I want to talk about the trap. Because when we start talking about targets and goals and being better, we inevitably start comparing ourselves to others.
Oh, yes, the comparison trap.
Maltz dives into this concept of the superiority complex. And I feel like we all know someone like this. The loud guy at the party, the person who always has to be right, the one who needs to dominate every conversation. We assume they just love themselves too much.
But Maltz flips that entirely on its head. He argues that there is actually no such thing as a genuine superiority complex.
Wait, really? Because it certainly looks like superiority.
It's a mask. Maltz says that people who exhibit that behavior, the striving for superiority, the need to be better than everyone else, they are actually suffering from deep feelings of inferiority.
So the superiority is a shield.
It's a compensation mechanism. Think about the logic. If you truly felt secure and confident in who you were, would you need to prove you were better than everyone else?
No, you'd just be.
Exactly. The cycle works like this. First, we judge ourselves against others, and we come out second best. That creates a feeling of, I'm not enough. That hurts.
Yeah.
So to hide that pain, we construct a superior self. We strive for power or status to prove we aren't inferior.
But it's a trap because the target is still inferiority. You're just running away from it.
And the striving itself causes more trouble. It creates friction with other people. It causes anxiety because you're constantly defending a fortress. Maltz says the harder we try to be superior, the more miserable we become.
So what's the way out? If I feel inferior and trying to be superior is bad, what do I do? How do I reset the machine?
The cure is not to make yourself superior to others. It's to stop measuring yourself against them entirely. The cure is to be yourself.
Be yourself. It sounds like a cliche on a greeting card.
It does, but Maltz gives it a specific definition. He uses the phrase glorifying God. Now, regardless of your religious views, the practical definition he uses is beautiful. He says it means letting your light shine. It means expressing your full abilities and talents, disregarding what others think.
So stop looking sideways at the other runners in the race.
Yeah.
And just run your own race as fast as you can.
Yes. The goal of the servo mechanism shouldn't be better than Dave from accounting. It should be express my potential fully.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Be better than Dave is a moving target because Dave might get a promotion or run faster. Express my potential is entirely within my control.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the imagination. If you can imagine yourself expressing your potential fearlessly, calmly, your nervous system will work to make that happen. You aren't fighting Dave. You're fulfilling your own design.
This feels like a perfect moment to really anchor this whole discussion. We always like to pull out a power quote from the source, something that sums it all up.
There's one line in the text that I think is the absolute cornerstone of this episode. If you write one thing down, write this. Human beings always act, feel, and perform in accordance with what they imagine to be true about themselves and their environment.
Always. That's a strong word.
It's definitive. It's not sometimes. It's always. This is the way we are built. It's the operating system.
And if that's the operating system, we need to learn how to program it. Which brings us to the part of the show I know people wait for. We could talk theory all day, but how do we actually do this? How do I fix my servo mechanism?
Right. How do we put this theory into action? Because knowing it doesn't change anything. Doing it does.
Maltz actually prescribes a very specific microhabit. It's not just think positive thoughts. It's a workout.
It is a mental workout. He suggests setting aside a period of 30 minutes each day.
30 minutes. That's a decent chunk of time. People are going to say they don't have time.
They will, but think about how much time we spend worrying. Think about the time we spend replaying old arguments in the shower or dreading tomorrow's meeting. That's all negative practice. We are just swapping that time for positive practice.
Fair point. So what is the setup?
Be alone. Be undisturbed. This is crucial. You need to disconnect from the sensory input of the room you're in. Relax deeply, get comfortable in a chair or lie down. Close your eyes.
Okay, I'm sitting in my chair, eyes closed. The world is shut out. Now what?
Now you exercise your imagination. You are going to build new memories into your midbrain.
How do you build a memory of something that hasn't happened?
By making it vivid. This is where most people fail. They make it too vague. I want to be successful. That's not an image. That's a wish. The key detail here is sensory richness.
Give me an example.
Pay attention to small details. Sights, sounds, objects, colors. If you're imagining yourself in a situation, don't just see a blur. See the texture of the carpet, hear the hum of the air conditioner, feel the weight of the pen in your hand.
So if I've been fearful or anxious about something, I shouldn't just try to not be scared.
No, you need to watch a movie of yourself acting calmly and deliberately in that specific situation. You need to be the director and the actor.
And the goal isn't just to feel better in the moment, right? It's not just meditation.
No, the goal is to alter the stored data. Remember, the nervous system can't tell the difference. If the imagination is detailed enough, your brain registers it as an actual experience. It says, oh, I've been here before. I've done this successfully.
You're preloading the success response.
Exactly. So when you actually face that situation in real life, your brain says, I know what to do. I act calmly here. You find yourself acting differently more or less automatically, without trying or forcing it in the moment.
Maltz gives a really concrete example of this that I think everyone can relate to, the job interview. Or a big presentation.
That's the classic high-stress scenario.
Usually people spend the night before an interview worrying. What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I stumble? What if I have spinach in my teeth?
That is rehearsing failure. You are literally practicing being nervous. You are training your servo mechanism to be anxious.
So how do we apply the 30-minute practice to the interview?
Plan it in advance. Go over the interview in your mind. List the questions you are likely to be asked. Think about the answers you want to give. That's the prep work. But then, and this is the key, you have to rehearse the performance.
So I see myself sitting in the chair across from the interviewer.
Yes. See yourself sitting there confidently, not arrogant, but relaxed. Hear the interviewer asking the question. Hear yourself answering not just the words, but the tone. Hear your voice steady, clear, confident. Feel yourself smiling.
And you do this over and over.
Yes, you run the tape. If you stumble in your imagination, you rewind and do it again until it's perfect. You are building a track record of success before you even walk in the door.
And the payoff.
He says you will respond well even if they ask you completely different questions than the ones you practiced.
Why is that? That seems counterintuitive. If I practice question A and they ask question B, shouldn't I panic?
No, because you didn't just practice the answer to question A. You practiced the feeling of confidence. You practice the state of being where you are articulate and calm. So even if the content changes the mechanism, the confident candidate mechanism is already running.
That is huge. It takes the pressure off memorizing answers and puts the focus on practicing the persona.
Exactly. You must have a clear mental picture of the correct thing before you can do it successfully. The servo mechanism needs the target. If the target is confidence, it will figure out how to handle the curveball question.
It all comes back to the target.
Yeah.
As we wrap this up, I'm realizing how much energy I waste aiming at things I don't want. Worrying is essentially praying for what you don't want to happen.
That's a really powerful way to put it. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of Psycho Cybernetics, it's incredibly liberating. You are not broken. Your mechanism isn't broken.
It's just working perfectly on bad data.
Right. Your nervous system is a mechanism. You are the operator. Your imagination sets the target.
So if we had to boil this down for the listener today, what's the homework?
The homework is to realize that your actions and feelings are the result of your images. If you don't like the output, don't beat up the machine. Don't try to force it with willpower. That's like trying to push a car with the brakes on.
Change the input.
Change the input. Change the mental picture you are feeding it. Stop striving for superiority to cover up your insecurity. Just sit down, close your eyes, and show your brain the truth of who you can be.
And don't just think it. See it. Feel it. Smell the carpet in the interview room.
If you picture yourself performing in a certain manner, it is nearly the same as the actual performance. So make the picture good.
Make the picture good. I love that. Listen, this is part 3, and I feel like we are just hitting our stride with this book. The tools are getting more practical, more actionable. We've moved from the blueprint to the engine.
And we have way more to uncover in the next deep dive. We haven't even touched on dehypnotizing yourself from false beliefs yet.
I can't wait for that one. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Right now, as you are listening to this, your servo mechanism is actively steering you toward a target. The question is, did you set that target intentionally today, or is it a default target you accidentally programmed 10 years ago? Think about that tonight.
That's a great question to leave on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here is your call to action. Don't just listen to this and nod. Try the 30-minute practice, even if it's just for 10 minutes to start. Pick one thing, a meeting, a conversation, a tennis swing, and visualize it. See what happens.
And let us know if it works.
Yes. And of course, if you want to make sure you don't miss the next part of this series, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed.
It helps the algorithm find us, which is its own kind of servo mechanism if you think about it.
It is. Feed the algorithm positive feedback so it feeds you the next deep dive. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
See you then.